I don't know how you'll view this, but what is important is I want us to have a conversation about what is happening in Kenya politically. And in this case, I want to focus on the statement that was issued by Gladys Wanga. That statement, for sure, it is something that we need to discuss further, because as an ODM chairperson, you don't expect her to speak the way she spoke. I am certain a majority of us are actually in agreement that whatever Mutahi Kahiga said was unpalatable, unacceptable. That's why we call him out. But now the statement by Gladys Wanga added fuel to a fire we want to put out. This is how she did it.
And what I know is that Kahiga does not speak for himself. Kahiga is the spokesperson of Rigathi Gachagua. Rigathi Gachagua mocked Raila's illness and asked whether he was a virus and whether Kalonzo was a bacteria. To date, Rigathi Gachagua is yet to mourn Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga, who braved political tensions to go and mourn his brother, the late Nderitu Gachagua. And therefore, we note now that anyone who associates with Gachagua and his ilk like Kahiga cannot be our friend. Yes. The line is drawn. Yes. Any person who associates with Gachagua, Kahiga, they cannot be our friends. Yes. Whether they are in our party or outside our party. Yes. Kahiga has drawn the line. Yes. To mock, he has crossed the Rubicon. We have crossed that line now. To mock Raila Odinga in his death, to mock him in his life, we could respond. But to mock him in his death, no. Any person who associates with Gachagua, with Kahiga, with that lot, can never, ever be our friend. Because the principle is, the enemy, the friend of your enemy is your enemy.
Based on this statement, there are three issues I picked up that I want us to discuss. And the last one is the most important because it touches on Luo Nyanza politics. So don't drop. In this case, Wanga characterized Gachagua as a virus and Kalonzo as a bacteria. So what is happening here is that she's trying to lump these both together, like to put them together and see them as a unit. Now, what happens when you see two people as one? It definitely means that you don't separate their behavior, you don't separate how you view both of them. So in this case, what is happening is that given that Gladys Wanga doesn't see Gachagua as someone that is good to the Luo community and Kalonzo is his ally, then it means Kalonzo is also not good to the Luo community. Now, this backs the claim Gachagua made in a KTN interview where he said that there is a very clear attempt to create a rift between Kalonzo and Luo Nyanza voters. You know, Raila himself has always praised Kalonzo. He has said that Kalonzo is a good man and is someone that you can trust. And this is well underscored in this clip.
Tumesimama naye pamoja. Mara mbili tumesimama naye pamoja. Tukipigana na tujashindwa. Kila mara kwa mara tumekuwa tunanyang'anywa tu. Amesimama na mizizi kidete. Hata mara hii ya mwisho hakuchaguliwa kama mgombea mwenza na yangu, lakini alibaki na sisi. Alibaki na sisi. Jamaa ana moyo. Jamaa ana ukakamavu. Jamaa ni mtu ambaye unaweza kumwamini. Yeye ni mtu mwaminifu. Yeye tena ni mtu Mkristo. Yeye ni mtu ana tabia ya ungingwana. Ana upendo. Ana upendo kabisa. Juzi nilisikia kama Ruto alikuwa pande hii anasema tu, mimi najua baba hata simama. Sasa mimi nitakuwa na Kalonzo tu. Anaongea juu ya Kalonzo kama Kalonzo ni kama yeye. Kalonzo ameshinda bwana Ruto mara 10. Yeye ni mtu mwaminifu. Yeye ni mtu mwaminifu. Anataka kutagawanya sisi. Baba na Kalonzo, sijui baba hatasimama, sijui nani hatasimama. Miongoni wetu hapa mtu atasimama. Sawa. Yeye anafikiri yeye ni mwerevu zaidi. Tutamwonyesha ati yeye hajui. Sawa sawa. Sisi tutasimama kidete na ndugu Kalonzo Musyoka.
What did you hear from Raila? He says that Kalonzo is someone you can trust, and he said that at some point he would stand with the Kalonzo. However, we know what changed politically. But the point is, Kalonzo is someone you can trust. And voters in Luo Nyanza understand that Kalonzo is a good person, and Kalonzo has sacrificed his ambitions to support Baba. And I've had conversations with people from Luo Nyanza, and they're saying Kalonzo is a good man. But now the likes of Gladys have to do something, which is put Kalonzo and Gachagua together and see them as bad together. That's the point. That's why she's pushing this narrative to a level of characterizing Kalonzo as a bacteria and Gachagua as a virus. Gachagua not mourning Raila is a narrative that is going to work for low-level voters, especially in Luo Nyanza, because the fact remains Gachagua has mourned Raila. We've seen him post some strong statements about Raila and also praising Raila, saying that this is an enigma, this is someone who has fought for Kenya, he has fought for democracy, he has fought for devolution. He recognizes all that, but he goes to say that politically we were not seeing eye to eye. And also reading the political atmosphere where President Ruto was involved in organizing state funeral for Raila, and at the same time looking at how the entire process was, it wouldn't have worked well for Gachagua, and perhaps Gachagua would have been humiliated publicly. So to avoid all that humiliation, what do you have to do? Take a low profile, don't show up at the burial. After all, Kalonzo was there. So do you think it was hatred that made Gachagua stay away from Raila's burial? No, that wasn't the case. It was just because of the political atmosphere where, President Ruto, who actually is not seeing eye to eye with the Gachagua, was there. So that would have looked awkward. So to avoid all that awkwardness, please just stay away. But this is not going to make sense to a lot of voters who really can't, analyze this issue and understand it objectively. Additionally, Gachagua was to visit Raila's gravesite, at least to pay his last respects. But because of the statement that was made by Mutahi Kahiga and his name being dragged into all these sagas, it was definitely reasonable for him not to go. I don't want to overblow this, to overemphasize, but this is what is happening in Luo Nyanza. There is anti-Babu Owino narrative gaining momentum, and this is pushed by those politicians who feel that they were so close to Raila. And for someone like Babu Owino, considering his age and all that, it doesn't make sense that he comes from nowhere, because Babu Owino to some extent is considered to have come from nowhere to take over the leadership of Luo Nyanza or to become Raila's political heir. It doesn't make sense to someone like Gladys Wanga seeing Babu Owino now taking charge. Look, I know someone would wonder, where is Babu Owino coming in this statement? Remember this? Gladys Wanga talked about, close associates. Anyone that associates with Gachagua, Kalonzo, or entirely that lot is an enemy. So Babu Owino is a close associate of Kalonzo. We've seen him talk good about Kalonzo, and he says that Kalonzo is a good man. But in this case, we are seeing Gladys Wanga seeing Kalonzo as a bad person just because Kalonzo is working closely with Gachagua. So Babu Owino is a marked man, and I know the likes of Gladys Wanga do not want someone who can create another center of power. They want someone who can consolidate power through ODM. But given that Babu Owino seems to be taking his own path, you'll always be a marked man. Anyway, this is just how I view it, and you can always share your opinions in the comment section.